fear of rejection is a natural human trait, but it can hold you back in your business. So on this show today, we're talking about how you can stop that happening.
Welcome to JFDI with the Two Lauras, the podcast for freelance social media managers, where we aim to tackle your biggest challenges around business, marketing and freelance life and leave you inspired to take action. On the show today, we're talking about the fear of being rejected by potential clients. It's a valid fear and one that we've both had in the past, but as valid as it is, we are all about making practical changes, and we know that by making some pretty simple tweaks, you can reduce that risk of rejection and start attracting and converting more of those four-figure clients we keep talking about. But before we get into today's show, we just want to let you know that the Social Media Managers Toolkit is back and it's open for enrolment. We've completely overhauled the curriculum, we've added new lessons, new frameworks and incentives to help you to take action so you can charge four figures. And unlike in years gone by, the Toolkit is now a 12-month supported programme, so you get us in your back pocket for 12 months to help you to take action and get past any roadblocks along the way. Enrolment is open right now, and if you join before 10 p.m. on Monday the 27th, you're going to get an exclusive bonus as well. We're going to help you to map out your next promotional campaign using a tool that we've created especially for you that will tell you exactly what to post and when to post it to attract your next four-figure client. All of the details to enrol can be found at thetwolauras.com/toolkit or just click the link in the show notes. Okay, let's crack on with the show.
Okay, so I think the first thing we would need to acknowledge is that people might not even realise they have a fear of rejection, but there are a few things that you might be doing that could stop you from getting four-figure leads. And they're probably because of a subconscious fear. So we're going to talk about this, but I think it's worth saying, when I was reading, Laura's done the notes for this, and when I was reading it, I felt seen. So clearly I also have a subconscious fear.
Oh, who knew? Who knew?
I know.
Love that. Oh, I also felt like what you just said felt a bit woo. So I think this podcast needs to come with a woo disclaimer. There is no woo in this podcast. No. It's all very practical. So don't think that we're suddenly going to get all woo on you. But let's talk about how this kind of shows up then. Because if you don't feel like you've got a subconscious fear, you might suddenly hear some of these things and think, actually, yes, this is me.
That's me. Yeah, I think the one that, well, we'll come on to the one that really kind of triggered me. But the main one I see a lot of is this generic marketing content where you're speaking to everybody. Yeah, like you're not targeted in who you want to speak to. There's no specific industry or business. It's very broad.
Well, hang on a minute. It is specific. It's small businesses. You know, small businesses. It's very highly specific, Laura. I mean, let's just put a caveat on that. Most businesses, especially in the UK, are small.
So I Googled it. I think in the UK, there's currently 5.5 million small businesses.
Wow. God, imagine how many there are in America then. Yeah. Okay. So anyway, generic.
Yeah, very generic. And it's like you're hiding, isn't it?
Yeah,
like
totally.
You're hiding thinking, oh, just hide amongst everybody else.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. I think the second one is that you are settling for lower fees because you just want to kind of avoid that confrontation or that discomfort of saying a higher fee and then someone saying, no, too expensive. Or you're kind of doing it a little bit differently and you're using package prices to give people options. And we've spoken about this so many times. If you're doing either of those things, it's probably because you have a fear of being rejected.
Totally. And on the same vein, you also hesitate to increase your fees with your current clients. So you're being amazing. You're doing, you're providing this bells and whistles service, but you still hesitate in putting those fees up.
Yeah, because you feel like you have to be grateful. At least they're paying you.
Yeah,
totally. Yeah. And I think on that, this is kind of all related to fees, isn't it? It's that thing where you feel like you have to overload your client experience or your deliverables with these unnecessary things just to prove that you're worth it, to prove that your fee is, valid.
Yeah, that's me.
That's the one that triggered you?
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, that's if I look at my relationship with my clients and the things I do for my clients, that 100% is me.
Oh, that is interesting and quite surprising.
I know, but I don't
Yeah.
think it's been a conscious thing.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's not turn this into a therapy session for me.
Okay, any others?
Yeah, I think also people offering discounts or giving that extra, so it kind of softens that blow.
Yeah.
So it's like, yes, this is my high fee, and you've got the balls to say this is my high fee, but then you're like, oh, but I'm going to give you a discount, I'm going to give you loads of extras to kind of soften it, and it's just not necessary.
Yeah, totally. So if any of those kind of struck a nerve and you're thinking, okay, yeah, that's totally me, don't worry, we're going to help you kind of flip these things, get over this fear of rejection that you probably didn't even realise you had until about 30 seconds ago. And we're going to make some practical changes. And again, there's no woo. No wooing coming. So let's start off then with the generic marketing one that you said about, because you probably think that you are better off using generic marketing, speaking to everybody, because then you're kind of...
Or 5.5 million.
Yeah, or 5.5 million small businesses in the UK or wherever. And you think that because you think, if I cast the net really wide, then I'll have more opportunities to get loads of leads. So that if one of them rejects me, then there'll be loads of others that, like, as a backup. And like, there's loads of opportunity out there. There's 5.5 million people even, that I could potentially work with, right? And that might feel good to you. But what if you flipped that around and did something different? Because this would work better. So instead of thinking that you're better off speaking to everybody, what if your messaging was so super specific that people who saw your messaging would see you as the only option for them? They couldn't possibly go anywhere else.
Yeah, there is no other choices.
There is no other option.
Yeah.
And if there's less option, there's less choices, there's less chances of them rejecting you because they have nowhere else to go. So you're not then competing on price or location or anything like that, because there is no competition, because it's just you. They don't have anyone else to pick from.
Yeah, okay. But how do we actually do that?
I think there's a few ways that you can do it. The obvious one, and I know this is your favourite to talk about on a podcast, is to be really specific with your niche. Like who it is you serve, but not just in terms of who you serve and all of that stuff. It's the messaging that you use around that, isn't it? It's being really open and honest and like obvious about that. It's not just enough to say, oh, I only work with, I don't know, greengrocers. I don't know why that's always my go-to option.
You always choose greengrocers.
Yeah, I don't even have a greengrocer near me. Maybe I'm traumatized by that. But it's not enough to just say, oh, I only work with greengrocers. You need to like own it, and every single thing that you put out into the world needs to speak to greengrocers or whoever your niche is. Don't let it be greengrocers. I don't think you make very much money. And I think a lot of people, they might think, yeah, okay, I know what my niche is. I know the kind of clients I want to work with, but they don't own it and they don't put it out into the world and they don't tell people that. So therefore it's not worth doing. You're still being generic.
Yeah, because they're scared of going too specific means that they're narrowing their options.
Yeah.
Whereas they just need to flip that mindset and think, like Laura just said, position yourself as the only person who is going to help. Yeah. So if I was to go out now and look for help, I would if someone was saying to me, I help people who train social media managers to create killer marketing, I'd be like, oh my God, they're talking to me.
Yeah.
Rather than someone just going, I help small businesses.
Yeah, totally.
It just makes me go, meh. It's like there's a sea, and I think we look at it from probably a more objective perspective, really, that we see a lot of social media manager content.
Yes.
And it is all similar.
Yeah, 99% of it is the same.
And if someone was to ask me for names of social media managers, the ones I can remember, the ones that roll off my tongue are the ones where I can say, this is blah, blah, she specialises in this industry, or this is blah, blah, she specialises in this service. Or I find the people who are very specific in their messaging are the ones that I remember.
And also from being on calls with like our Inner Hub members and from reading case studies recently, the people who make the most money and charge the highest fees are the ones who are really specific in their messaging. Like, it's just proven. This isn't something we're just making up for the fun of a podcast. No. This is proven stuff. It's proven practical steps that will actually make a difference and reduce that option of people like, you know, turning you away to go for somebody else, because people want to hire the best person they can afford for their budget, but they also want to hire the best person for their industry, their problem, their niche, whatever.
Yeah.
They don't just want, you know, any old social media manager. They want the one that's right for them. And you need to kind of position yourself as that. And I know you might think, well, hang on, but that makes it really difficult because, you know, if I'm only speaking to one type of person, trust me, this will make your marketing so much easier, because it's so much easier to speak to one problem, one person in your content and not try and fill all the different gaps.
I think an objection and a hesitation from a lot of businesses when they're looking to outsource is that, but if I outsource that, they won't know the industry, they won't know what I'm doing, they won't know my customers. So if you position yourself as someone who does know the industry, does know the customers, does know the problems, then that just takes away that hesitation from that decision maker.
100%.
Okay, so one of the other things we talked about before is if you're thinking that you have to have different price services, you know, the classic kind of gold, silver, bronze packages, so people can pick, they will always and often not pick those highest price services. They'll pick another one.
Yeah, this isn't McDonald's where you're going to go in and someone says, do you want to supersize it? Whatever it is they say in McDonald's. Whereas most people will say yes. That's not how it works with packages with social media managers. Most people go for lower.
People will often go, especially if they're cautious, they've never done it before, maybe they've never outsourced, they're like, let's go with the lower option and let's see if we can. So you're thinking, if I give them options, then I'm giving them, it's that bigger net, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's rather than saying my fee is X, that repel a lot of people, you're thinking, well, if I give them X, Y, and Z, I have more options to capture them in my net.
Yes. Yeah.
But then I think there's ways that we can flip this round.
100%. Yeah.
So I remember, and actually I was talking to you, Laura, about this a while ago, because I found my notebook from when I very, very, very first started. And I'd got in there all like the names, I was thinking of my business, the domains, I'd got in there my pricing, and I'd got in there my gold, silver, bronze. Now I'm pleased to say I never actually published that. I don't know how, but I obviously came to the realization that there was no point in me having those kind of levels of services. But I found it quite interesting that I went through that process, but I always published my starting from price. I never went down that option of having package prices. And I think at the time, that's what I thought, well, everyone does that, so that's what I need to do. But I didn't do that because I realized you couldn't put all those businesses in these three different bronze, bloody silver, gold. And I was like, well, what would you take away?
Yeah.
So I never actually did it in the end, but obviously my thought process did go down into that way. But I always had just a starting from price, and then I have never charged two businesses the same price. I've never quoted the same, I've never charged the same, I've never billed the same. They've always been bespoke.
But I think there's another layer to that, which I know that you would have done, but most people will be listening to that thinking, but if I put a starting from price on there, it's just going to turn people away. The different packages are so that doesn't happen. And there's another layer to this. You want to get rid of the package prices and you want to have this starting from price, but you also want to have set fees for set deliverables. So for example, like a standalone service, like an audit is a set fee. A standalone service for a strategy, for example, might be a set fee, so that people still do have options that they can spend money on without being, immediately repulsed by your 4-figure monthly fee. And then that way, if someone can't afford like that long-term fee, they still have an option at a low budget. And like, let's talk about it, right? If let's say that for the sake of this podcast, your minimum fee is £1,000 a month or $1,000, depending on where you live. A client might think that's way too expensive. I cannot pay £1,000 or $1,000 every single month, because over time, like every year, that would end up being $12,000 or $12,000, £12,000. Exactly. That's how I went for 1,000, because my math skills are amazing. So that is a lot of money to a business potentially, right? Depending on, what state that their business is in. But that doesn't mean that they wouldn't spend £1,000 with you. they still might spend £1,000 for a one-off payment.
They might spend £6,000.
Exactly. They just might not want to commit to 12 grand over a year.
Especially if they don't know you.
Exactly. Yeah, absolutely. And £1,000 for a one-off service is way better money than charging a low fee and taking on a client for half the amount for the whole year. You know, it's way less stressful.
So by flipping it and doing it that way, that you have your starting from management fees because you're going to offer a bespoke service, so you're going to offer them a bespoke price, but also having set prices for the other services, that net that we talked about earlier is still a big net. You still have lots of options to work with different people who have got different budgets, different price points. And it means that you have variety in your income streams, you have variety in your day-to-day. You know, you're not just slave to the scheduler. You're doing lots of different offers, lots of different services. And yeah, you're the go-to person for that in your niche, offering all of these different services.
Yeah, exactly. So less likely that someone's going to say no. Perfect.
Yeah. Win-win.
Exactly. The other thing we spoke about was like the offering a discount or adding loads of more things in, the one that was triggering you, like making it sound like you're adding loads more things in. And I get it. By doing those things, by, you know, dropping your fee or adding on loads more deliverables, you feel like you're going to make more sales, you're going to win more clients. And that's more often than not either not the case, or you will find that the clients you take on, you then end up resenting them because you've knocked the fee down. And you're like, I'm doing the same amount of work for less money. Like, it just doesn't feel great, right?
Or more work for less money if you've added on loads of extras.
Totally. So instead of doing that, what if, instead of using price as a reason for somebody to hire you and to say yes to your proposal, you made your offer, like the package of what you're doing, without adding anything onto it, you make it so attractive that people would want to pay double. And that might sound like, yeah, that's not going to happen, Laura. But it totally could happen. It's just how you position things, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
So we call this the Hemsworth effect because you know that we love Chris Hemsworth. And so we've created a whole framework around this in the Social Media Managers Toolkit, named after our one true love. I'm sure there will probably be gifts to go with it. I mean, it'd be rude not to. But what this does is it makes your offer, in the most cheesy way, as irresistible as Chris himself. So no one's going to walk away from Chris Hemsworth. You don't want people to walk away from your offers. So you need to really think about your offer and what it is that will make people buy it. So you want to focus on your client's biggest problem so that you become like the hero to their story, the thing that they want to solve that problem. And you need to then highlight why you specifically are the best person to solve that problem. They can't go elsewhere to get it solved. You're the person to do that. And some of that will come down to what we were talking about before with like your messaging and your niche and all of that stuff. And by doing this, you're then going to remove any objections that they might have because they can't go anywhere else. They're not worried about price because they want to pay double. And then that will be able to get them to take action now. They won't start thinking, I'm just going to think about it for another week. You know, you want them to take action. So this whole Hemsworth effect is getting them to think, this is exactly what I want. This is why I want it. This is how much I'm willing to pay for it. Give it to me now.
Yeah, like a no-brainer.
Exactly. So they feel like that investment is kind of almost risk-free to them because it's so irresistible.
Yeah. It takes away any hesitation. It takes away, I'll just go and see what everybody else is doing.
Yeah.
Because no one else is doing that, because you're the one who's offering something that very specifically deals with their problem, and you have positioned yourself as the only person to solve that.
And that isn't by adding on more deliverables.
No.
It's by making your message more specific and more clear so that people really understand it and they can really see themselves in the problems you're talking about, and the outcomes that you are sharing are the outcomes that they want. That's just down to your messaging. That's not down to what you actually give them.
No, because at the end of the day, any social media manager in theory are offering the same things.
Yeah.
It's about how you position it. It's about how you sell it. It's the words you use. It's what you say that resonates with people. The delivery is still, in theory, the same.
Yeah, absolutely. So there we have it.
Exciting. Good old Chris comes to save the day.
Good old Chris swooping in with his hammer. Does he swoop? I don't know if Thor swoops. Probably not. But if he did,
I don't know.
He would be doing that. So yeah, it's like, I know what we've spoken about today. It might feel a bit heavy to you, but when you just switch your mindset to how you want to work, so you are not thinking about, this massive wide net, you're just thinking about those specific people you want to work with. And remember, you don't need tons and tons of clients. Right. Probably less than a handful.
And you don't need tons and tons of thousands of followers.
No. So when you flip your mindset and realise that, you realise you don't need those 5.5 million small businesses. You just need the right people, and you need to offer them the right thing in the right way. And then there's way less chance of them saying no. Simple tweaks.
If the fear of rejection has been holding you back, it's time to kick it to the curb and start charging what you're worth. The Social Media Manager's Toolkit is ready and waiting to help you attract and convert those dreamy 4-figure clients without any fear of being rejected. We've packed it with everything you need, including new lessons and frameworks like the Hemsworth effect. We'll even point you to the specific lessons to help you overcome that fear of rejection. The new toolkit is a 12-month supported program where we'll be cheering you on every step of the way. Head to thetwolauras.com/toolkit or hit the link in the show notes to get all the information.
And don't forget, if you join before 10 p.m. on Monday the 27th of January, you're going to get an exclusive bonus too, which will help you to map out your next promotional campaign and tell you exactly what to post and when to post it to attract your next 4-figure client. That link again is in the show notes, or it's thetwolauras.com/toolkit. So that's it for now. We'll be back same time, same place next week. We'll see you then.
See you then.
Arrivederci.
Can I just say before I say bye, I have not done any sayings in this podcast.
Oh my God, we need to go and re-record the whole episode.
I know, disappointing. Anyway, bye-bye.